see you.
Same here. Same here.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Hope it was a good one.
It was all right.
It's being dried.
How much longer?
Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. We're waiting for the developer, and we've still got about 10 more minutes, so
Oh,
hang tight.
all right.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Dave.
How's it
We've
going?
got a couple of people on now. But we're gonna wait until, we gotta wait till 5:30 to get started officially.
Okay. I'm here.
Okay, good.
Shit. Okay. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Pam.
Dave said he accidentally deleted something, so I gotta go back and find it.
Y'all can probably turn off your camera if you want to and mute until you're ready to go. It's up to you. We've got a
Okay.
couple people on already.
Oh, wow, okay. What am I gonna do?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
How are we?
Give
The
us
first
just a
one's in?
couple-
First
No,
one's
no,
on?
we got a couple more already
Okay,
on. We're just waiting for, we've got to wait a few minutes to get started. I want to make sure
okay.
everybody logs in. Planning, this is Laura. Hello?
Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
You know, we're within 200 feet of the property. I don't know why we didn't get a letter.
Your participant key followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 10 participants in the meeting.
You recognize anything? You on mute.
I can hear you, I can't see you.
There's everybody that's on already.
So. Understand.
Hi, Stan.
Oh, you can hear me. Stan.
We should have done this at your house, Jen.
Yeah. Mario's not on there yet.
I don't know where we are. Oh, there we are.
Mhm.
More you.
Yep, who's that?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hi, Linda. Can hear you, but I can't see you. Who said that?
You wanna take a-
Terry Thompson.
We're gonna mute ourselves. Your name showed up and then it didn't.
People sign on. Go to full screen.
Okay, I apologize for that. I was trying to help somebody get on to the link. Hopefully they were able to get on it. It is 5:31, so I wanted to go ahead and get started. I'm Laura Talley. I'm the planning director for the city of Boerne. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. I'm going to
Yeah.
try to run this as casually as we can because we don't have a whole lot of people on here. So I think I can manage the numbers. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank Mr. Luciani for providing us the opportunity to take a look at his site prior to going to any public hearing. The property, as y'all know, is under consideration for zoning, an R2 zoning. It's currently an R1. And Mr. Luciani's got a proposed plan for the site that he wanted to kind of introduce to y'all and get some feedback on. We've got Ty Willison, who is the council representative for your district. He is also in attendance. The December 7th meeting at the Planning and Zoning Commission will be a public hearing, and they will make recommendation to council. It will go to council. They'll receive the recommendation on January 12th, but the meeting that y'all would want to be aware of is January 26th will be a public hearing before council. So it will go 2 times, once to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then again to council. And then there will be a second reading early February that would be the final for the final zoning. But I want y'all to understand this is just a first glance at this, and the zoning doesn't really tie them down to any site plan. So I wanted to be able to get some feedback from everybody early on in the process. So you'd know what's going on in your neighborhood and would have an opportunity to talk to the developer and ask any questions. He still will need to go through a PUD process. So somebody's got some background. Hold on 1 second.
Can everyone mute? And
Yeah, if everyone mute your microphones, please.
Laura, I think, I don't know if you're the co-host, it shows City of Boerne IT support, but you can mute all from there.
That's what I was getting ready to do. I was trying
That helps
not
because
to.
one of the people on the phone who's probably not paying attention has got their mute open, and that's the feedback.
Yeah, I asked him to mute. Let's see. So I think he's trying to fix it. So I would ask everybody to mute unless you have a question. And I would ask everybody to hold their questions until after Mr. Luciani is done with his presentation. Let's hear him through. And then you've got plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to ask questions. I think if all of you got my mailing, the mailing has his contact information on there as well. And you're welcome to contact him directly and ask questions as well. But there's plenty of time in this process. Right now, it's just the zoning. After that, he will come back with a PUD plan because this is a unique infill type of development. And it's going to require some more scrutiny, and there's a lot of public opportunity for y'all to weigh in and have your voices heard. So this is not the final time. And certainly Mr. Luciani is open to having conversations offline with you as well. So we've still got months before this is finished. The zoning, though, will be complete first part of February, as I said. So I do want to ask Mr. Luciani if you'll, he's going to be our presenter for here on out. I'm going to kind of step back. When he's done, then I'll come back and ask y'all to provide some questions, and he can give us some answers and just have an open dialogue, but I can't have everybody talking at one time. So either wave at me, or there is a way to raise your hand. I don't know if everybody can figure that one out, but if you can, I'll keep an eye on it and then I'll call you. But as orderly as we can proceed with this, it would be best for everybody. If you're talking over each other, he can't hear anybody. So Mr. Luciani, you want to get started?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for signing up and getting online with the Zoom. It's kind of a unique situation, but it's where we find ourselves these days. This piece of property, I know it's, you know, it's been proposed for in years past as multifamily and attached and everything, and we really don't do that. My wife and I, Pam is sitting right next to me here, helping me out technically a little bit, but we do single family detached housing. That's what we do, and developments. And that's what we are looking to do on this 7.4 acres in your neighborhood. Pardon? Yeah, I'm gonna put a site plan up so you can take a look at that. Basically, it is quite a bit of green, quite a bit of open areas. I wanted to point out that.
So Dave, is it up on your screen, because I can't see it?
It is.
It's up on my screen.
Hold on one second. Let's see if we can figure this out so I can see what I've seen. Any suggestions, IT?
Yeah, did you hit, Mr. Luciani, did you hit share screen first and then find the slide that you want?
Down at the bottom is share screen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Doing it now. Got it.
There you go.
That's why she's here.
So you can tell me what to do. There we go. Okay.
Okay, there you go. We're good.
Is that up for everyone?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. But we designed it. We're trying to bring a little bit of kind of Charleston, Savannah type housing to the area. As I was talking to Pam earlier, we really have no intention of doing anything different with Garden Street. I think that Esplanade is really kind of cool, and it really needs to stay undisturbed. So if I can get that through the city undisturbed, I'm gonna try to do that and not do anything to Garden Street other than the entry that we require on that on the west side. Also, if you'll notice on the layout that it really doesn't have if you want to call it a hallway of homes, where you have homes on each side as far as facing one another. And it's kind of a unique layout where very few, except for 36 and 37, do they face each other. So it's going to be a unique little drive, and we've tried to incorporate as many open spaces as we can. And we may lose a lot or two in this process just to open space and those open space requirements. The other thing they're fairly deep lots for the R2, and R2 allows for, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but a minimum of 4,000 square feet. We are going to end up with about 5,000 square feet. We'll probably average around 46 by 110. and with the traditional side sets and front and back sets. Actually, I'm trying to get my front setbacks to about 25 feet just to give the home a little more depth. All these homes will have front porches up and down. It's kind of a unique design.
Not all.
Dave, do you have the elevations?
Yes, let's put, get Pam to put one of those up.
Let's see if you can see this. Can you see this, Laura?
No. Nope.
So we had to hit share again.
I don't think you do. Once your screen is up, you shouldn't have to hit share. but-
Yeah, you hit the share and then bring up the next, the other screen.
Okay. So bear with me for just a second. Now I have to figure out how to get rid of it. Let's see.
Ideally, we want to have these meetings live. I mean, that's how we like to do it, but in these times, we just can't do it. And I
Maybe
was,
we need to minimize that one and then go to another one.
I think we had notified 30 some odd property owners, so potentially could have had 60 people on. So I didn't want to take a chance and
I hit that.
Well, that's what I did.
having a
but-
live
You
meeting.
had the other screen up.
Okay. You see it now?
No.
No.
Okay.
You want to minimize that one, maybe?
It says now new share.
Oh, new sheet. Okay.
Right
Is it
there.
this one?
Yeah. I think.
There you go. Got it.
Okay.
We see.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
And what we're trying to do also in the development is everybody talks in the council and P&Z and just about all over town about impervious cover, and we're trying to maximize the green and the grassy areas for drainage and just the look of the development. So I went to throwback sort of design on the ribbon driveway. I'm sure all of you remember those from way back when, but I think it might be time for a developer to kind of bring those things back to get more grass and more green area. There will be no front loading garages on these houses. They're all going to be in the rear and either a carport, a covered carport or garage. It depends on what the people want. And we're gonna have that as a custom item on the property, but they'll either have a carport or a garage, and that'll be in the rear of the property. And the porches, you know, we're doing the cottages also in town and another development besides that. And we're just utilizing porches. We really like the look. It adds a lot of depth to the elevation and the design. So we're really excited about doing that.
So for those of you that don't know, the cottages are located over off Oak Park, and they're small homes, about 1,000 square feet, small little cottages. That's Mr. Luciani's project as well.
And they're turning out really neat. We're really proud of those. Also, I think we'll go to Pam. Let's go to that lot plan. I'm gonna have to go. Hold on.
Time to get it up first. This one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, you see it already? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you scroll down just a little bit so we can see the whole? There you go. Thank you.
And hopefully the first thing that pops out is the green color. Those are all grassy areas. And again, we're trying to reduce the impervious cover in these developments to help all kinds of things, just the environment and also drainage. It helps a great deal. And we've had a lot of meetings in the city about trying to accomplish that. And we think we're on the right road, so to speak, of doing that. And these all have the traditional 5 and 5. I'm going to try to do a 25-foot setback in the back and the front, and then a 20 in the rear. Let's see what else we have. We can go to.
See the pictures?
Laura, you have anything to add on that?
No, it just as I stated earlier, because this is an infill type development, the streets are more narrow. Lot dimensions are a little different than what we're used to seeing, but he's got, most of these are, I think, at a minimum of 40 feet, right, Dave?
Yeah, we're going to go a minimum of 45 on these.
Okay.
And I think the ordinance allows for 40, but we're going to do 45s. It's just really too hard to fit everything, plus the driveway along the side. So we added an extra 5 feet to that.
Yeah, so the ordinance does allow for lots this small. The smallest single family detached are 4,000 square feet with 40 feet of frontage. What is a little different about this that would require a PUD plan is the more narrow streets.
And as you can see, as you saw on the last lot plan, I'm trying, also, we are trying to sort of build something that's going to eliminate street parking. I just really dislike street parking. And I think we can utilize a 30-foot street instead of 36 and have that extra setback and extra driveway for visitors and parking and people that want to park. And so they won't have to clutter the street with parking.
Right.
Also, for the neighbors, we will, I mean, if I'm allowed to do an 8-foot perimeter fence, I'll certainly do that. For separation, a nice frame cap fence for the perimeter, and then we'll probably do vinyl fencing between the homes.
And for those of you that don't know, I keep referring to a PUD plan. It's a planned unit development, and that lays out all the specifics of the development, from street widths to open space to, you know, lot sizes, where sidewalks are, and so forth. So there's a whole lot of detail that still will have public input. So we're really just at the very beginning of this with the zoning.
Yeah, and on these elevations, just ignore the stairways because they're all going to be on grade. So just ignore those. Those are just something we have to get. It'll look like the first one. What is that it on the? Oh, we're gonna do all metal roofs, which have a nice appearance, and you know, nice landscaping always, and just the general look is going to be a little bit different than what we have seen around Boerne, but I think it'll be a nice fit for the area, and I look forward to working with everybody on getting this to being a successful project for Boerne. And I think it's something that's needed. I don't like to throw around the word affordable because I'm not sure it's appropriate anymore with the land costs the way they are. But we do want to satisfy the need for families to come into Boerne and actually be able to buy a home without spending $600,000 or $700,000. We should be in the 300s, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can keep it. And I know it sounds funny to keep it in the 300s, but it is very difficult these days to keep these houses in the 300s.
In Boerne in particular.
In Boerne, I mean, it's a lot simpler in other places around, but in Boerne, with the land cost being so high, it's difficult. But I think this area is outside the 500-year. It's in Zone X of the floodplain, and Jeff Carroll, the city engineer, did look at this as far as any waterways or any interceptors that were going through the property, and he didn't find any. So we got a clean report on that.
Essentially, he's talking about drain fields that come through the property.
Yeah.
So Dave, if this is what you're going to show, we could open it up to questions if you're ready.
Sure.
And what I'd ask is if you'll unmute yourself and just give me your name, because I can't see everybody right now. I've got about 5 people on the screen, so I won't be able to see everybody. Just and then if you'll I see Christine has her hand raised. Go ahead, Christine.
First of all, Mr. Luciani, thank you so much for allowing us to preview your plans. My husband and I live at 127 Adler, which is adjacent to the two rental homes that you're looking at purchasing and putting a street virtually next to our driveway and our home.
Do you want to go back to the site plan, Dave? And then
Just
you can speak.
Pam just got it up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Christine.
I just have several questions. They may not make sense or go in the right order that you want to, but we are off of Adler where you've got that 22-foot, 32-foot, something
I
there.
think she's just to the north, right in there.
Yeah, the 1
Here.
to 7 homes that you have directly across the street from the street that will be lining our driveway in our home that has our living room, 2 bedrooms, and our family room on that side of the house. So I'm concerned about the traffic, very concerned. How many homes? You got 37 homes you would like to put in here?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they all 2-story or are they 1 and 2 stories?
I think we have a couple of models that are 1-story with maybe a studio or something like that on the 2nd floor, but it's sort of an attic room situation, but I think most of them are going to be 2-story.
Okay, and you're looking at a price range of about 300,000?
I hope we can get in the 300,000 to 400,000 range.
It's a high square footage build, but we're in Boerne.
I think our highest square footage is 25 or 2,600.
Yeah, we didn't give the range.
How much green space is there in this area? While you talk about a lot of green, I don't see that. Where, if there's children in the neighborhood or young adults, where are they supposed to go with a 25-foot front yard and a 20-foot backyard? Where are people congregating?
Well, we're gonna have like a pavilion in one of the open spaces, probably in the center. And I may lose that lot 37 and just open up that whole middle section, which I think would be a nice gathering area and a nice playground area for kids.
Okay, so how much green space do you have that?
I don't know what the calculation is. We are required, I believe, at 20%, aren't we, Laura?
Well, you're less than 10 acres, right?
Yes.
So
It's
there's no
7.4.
open space.
We're going to strive to get close to that 20% open space requirement, even though we aren't required to do that. Because I want areas for children and the adults to be able to gather inside the development and not just have to go to another park outside the development.
Well, and Dave, can you speak to the location of, I mean, why you chose this site? You talked about it quite a bit with old number 9 being right there.
Yeah, this site, I think the area is really good. I like the north side of town. It's starting to perk up a little bit. It's, Boerne needs to have some kind of within the city limits type of development like this, to help support the downtown or north town. And I really like being next to the city of Boerne right away there, the old number 9. And Adler and Garden are just nice areas. I like the area.
Have you thought about using the old number 9 access for your ingress egress into this project?
They're not allowed to do that. They can't. At some point, we're going to extend the trail down this area.
Okay.
So
Is this a gated community?
No, it's not.
Okay. I guess you would have to demolish, put in infrastructure, and do the actual build. What time frame are you looking at for this whole thing from start if it gets rezoned to finish?
I would say 3 years is not, it's probably around a 3-year project.
Okay. The perimeter, I believe I heard you say that it would be an 8-foot fence around the entire development?
I could, yeah, that's what I would like to do. We might put a rock wall along Garden Street and maybe along Adler and maybe along your area right here. But, you know, I wouldn't go 8 foot on a stone, but I can definitely go 8 foot on a frame cap wood.
So to be a wood fence.
In some of the areas, probably along Old Number 9, it'll be a wood fence. But you know, I will try to dress it up as much as I can, and stone always looks good.
Well, and it lasts a lot longer too.
Yeah, I mean, if that's something that you would look favorably on, we can talk about that.
Okay. You may not know this answer, but Laura, you might know it. What would a development like this do to our property values in the neighborhood on like Kitty Cat and Serenity Oaks and on Adler?
Well, when you're looking, I mean, it's hard for me to say, but when you're looking at property values, they typically are looking at price per square foot, and these are still going to be expensive price per square foot. I don't believe it would diminish. It's a little infill project close to the downtown area. So there shouldn't be any diminishment of your property values. Matter of fact, I don't ever see that happening in Boerne. Even up against apartments, I don't see it.
Yeah. Dave, have you considered the traffic issues that this is going to cause? Currently Adler Road and Garden Street are both, and I guess Laura too, planning and zoning, this would be your forte. Currently on Adler, we have Maldonado's, we have N's Restaurant, we have Currington, we have the skate park, we have YMCA, we've got a high school traffic, we have a 60 apartment building that's being constructed behind the YMCA, and we have enormous construction traffic going through Adler by construction workers to avoid the main street traffic and traffic lights. Garden Street is currently being used as a cutoff or a shortcut to get from Adler or Sisterdale or Maine from that 5 points. Instead of waiting at the light, they'll come down Adler and then shoot up Garden Street. You're building 37 homes. The average number of cars per home is usually 2, which would add another 74 cars to this traffic jam and problem that we have already.
Well, we are required by the city to do a traffic impact analysis. And we'll certainly provide that to you. I think the Sisterdale work on Sisterdale Highway is going to help alleviate some of that. It's just in our studies, we've learned, I think Laura can back me up on this, that the timing and especially in today's kind of home office economy, the trips per day just aren't the way they used to be.
Well, we've got a COVID pandemic right now.
Well, yeah, but
this probably wouldn't be the best time to do that traffic.
What they have to provide to us is a traffic study and it's actually a manual that we follow the numbers, and they're pre-COVID. I mean, they're national numbers that we use for figuring traffic counts and so forth. So pandemic or no, we look at it as a standard. This is really a small infill development. And I know it sounds like a whole lot of cars, but Dave is correct. They come and go at different times. Dividing it up with 2 exits and entrances actually helps kind of dissipate the traffic from this point. So I don't see it as a huge impact in this area.
I see people cutting through this subdivision to get from Sisterdale or Adler over to Maine. That's just my thoughts.
They may. I mean, I think if there was a traffic backup, you're probably absolutely correct.
You're saying that it could take
Well,
at
that's
least.
bad. That's bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're
I'd be
saying it
taking,
could,
so what you just said is I'd be taking traffic off of Garden and Adler because they'd be cutting through my subdivision.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
They cut, if
So-
you look at Garden right now, it's, and they don't go 25 miles an hour. They're speeding through there. You know, there's safety concerns with children, with, you know, older people. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've got some questions and I've raised my hand several times.
Christine, are you just about done?
Yeah, give me another minute here and I'll let someone else take over. What are you going to do in these 3 years with the dust, the dirt, the noise, you know, the inconvenience to all of these people that live on adjacent lots or very close to it, like the Ends Restaurant? I mean, that isn't going to be good for their business. It's not going to be good for my health or my husband's health to have a lot of dust, dirt, noise for 3 years.
Well, you asked me a question that was from start to finish. That's not necessarily going to be 3 years in front of your house.
But there will be demolition, there will be infrastructure that's put in, there will be building, not
Yes.
right next to my house, but I got 7 across the way. I've got a road there and then a road behind me as well. And then houses that will be built close to this property as well. So yeah, I've got a concern. It could be 3 years.
Well, I mean, we'll follow all of the construction guidelines and do as much privacy as we can, and water trucks and all of everything we need to do to keep the dust down and make it as an easy process for you as we can. Yeah, I wish I could, you know, twitch my nose and make a subdivision appear, but I just can't do that.
Yeah. Dave, my final question is why would we in this neighborhood want this development in our neighborhood?
Because it's probably going to be the best one proposed for that piece of property at that price. I don't see anyone being able to do anything close to what we're going to do. They'll want to put apartments on this property, and that's just a fact. From
It's
what
not
I
zoned,
know,
it's not zoned for apartments right now. It's an R1. There
You
are no
can't-
apartments allowed.
and R1's not going to work at the price that the gentleman wants for the property. It's just not going to work. So basically, it'll stay a park. I mean, that's fine, I guess, but
Well, it's not a park. It's not a park.
well, it'll stay.
Nobody can use it.
It'll stay an empty piece of land at R1.
There you go.
There's just no way at the price that you can do that. But you could, at that price, bump it up to attached townhomes and things that I don't do and won't do. So that's one of the reasons why I think this development is the best option for that piece of property.
Okay, I appreciate that. And just a comment, that drainage issue that you said you got clearance on, I'd like to talk to you more about that, because every time it rains over 5 inches in this area, I've got pictures, we flood, those 2 houses flood, the street floods. We have drainage issues and the city has not addressed them. I'm
Well,
done.
let my development take care of that drainage for you.
Thank you,
I'm afraid
Christine.
you'll take care of the drainage by building up the pads.
Okay, I've got a couple of hands raised. Who's speaking right now?
Terry,
I just
Terry
can't see.
Thompson. I've raised my hand all through the questions.
Yeah, I apologize. I can't see it for some reason. Jerry Thompson?
Terry Thompson.
Terry?
107 Kitty Cat.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, and then I've got 3 other people that have got their hands raised, so I can see y'all.
Okay, none of the people on Kitty Cat were invited to this meeting. I know that they're interested. I've got 2 that were trying to get on, sign on now to this meeting. But all of Kitty Cat will be impacted You're touting the low price of those homes at 200, 300,000.
I never
There are
mentioned
homes
200.
on there's homes on Kitty Cat that they were asking 1.3 million.
Yeah, I never mentioned 200,000. I said I'd be lucky to get them in the threes.
Okay. Well, the people that live on Kitty Cat that live in 600,000, 700,000 $1 million homes aren't going to like that number. And I don't see how retirees considering coming to Boerne can trust the zoning commission. It's the zone next to you can be a tire vulcanizing plant 3 weeks from now. I don't see how there's any trust in people moving to Boerne if they're going to keep changing the game rules.
Mr. Thompson,
understand-
do you have any questions for
Does-
Mr. Luciani?
Well, I know that just a point, Serenity Oaks is zoned R2 and it backs up to Kitty Cat, and those houses are still worth millions of dollars. I understand, but I can tell you right now on an appraised value, if we get these lots put in, that per square foot is going to be higher than the Kitty Cat houses, the per square foot price on appraisals.
Okay,
So
you've said, I got a question. You
Sure.
said you're going to try to keep the oaks and you're going to try to put a perimeter fence in. How should we take that encouragement with all those maybes?
Well, that's what I'm going to do if the planning and everything that we do with the city goes through. There's all kinds of things that I have to get approved through the city, and that's the reason I say that. I mean, I would love to just say this is what we're going to do for sure, and this is the way it's going to look, and this is the way it's going to be. I just, there's some open-ended things that you just can't promise, but it doesn't do me any good to build a subdivision that doesn't look good. And I'm trying to sell $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 houses. It doesn't do me any good to just not have a nice fence or a nice wall and open areas in the subdivision that I take a lot of pride in.
Okay, without the perimeter fence, parking in the rear of each home, it appears on lot 25, 24, and the adjacent lots that the backyard would be great from your subdivision, but at 107 Kitty Cat, I would be looking, particularly if they opt to put in carports, I would be looking at a carport or several carports.
Well, I think you'd be looking at a 6-foot rock wall, but
And a bunch of trees.
I'm not going to leave that area on Garden open. It wouldn't make any sense. And I'm not going to do that.
Open as in unfenced?
Exactly.
Correct.
I have another question that has to do with drainage. When it rains 2 or 3 inches, the water runs out of that lot back onto old number 9. And it's like a Colorado trout stream. Public Works has to come by with a front end loader and scrape all the gravel out of Gordon Street and put it back on the old railroad line. If it comes out that far, how are you going to catch it in your retention ponds?
Well, if the flow is coming from my property, we are going to be bound to capture that water and slow it down. If what I'm hearing that you're saying that the 7.84 acres drains onto the city of Boerne old number 9 right away, we are bound by basically the ordinance and the drainage ordinance to take that water and accept it, treat it, slow it down, and have it come out in a more organized way. And that's what we plan to do.
I would encourage you to get with Boerne Public Works and see how much gravel they have to scrape out of Gordon Street after a high rain. I
Down
mean,
by is that down by the old number 9? Is that where you're talking?
Yeah, Garden
Yeah,
Street.
it would come right across property lot number 27 and into my side yard. And
Okay.
it flows like a Colorado trout stream.
Well, hopefully the development and its proposed detentions are on that side and on that end, and we would be able to mitigate that circumstance quite a bit. And I'm not saying I can fix everything, but it's something that the city is aware of, I'm sure, and they're going to look at it. But I will get with Jeff Carroll, the city engineer, and we'll talk about it. See what we
Okay,
can do.
I would appreciate that, because if you build up your property, I'm going to have to build up my property, and it's going to be tit for tat.
We don't want that.
That is not what we want.
No, but no, that's a good point. And I certainly don't want to develop something that's going to be a negative impact for you or for my residents either. So it's something that we certainly need to look at and try to fix.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Thompson, is that all you had? So I've got other folks.
Well, my real concern is it reduces the property value on Kitty Cat Lane.
Okay.
That's the potential threat.
I understand.
And there's a lot of nice houses on Kitty Cat that are going to be impacted. And I believe it will, in the future, keep people from trusting the city of Boerne's zoning and planning.
Well, I think on my list, there were 2, I think, people on Kitty Cat that got invited or that got noticed. And that's just because the lots are so big. We go 200 feet from every corner, and I think the lots are big right there in Kitty Cat. So it didn't reach back all the way down into the cul-de-sac.
Well, as you know, Kitty Cat is a cul-de-sac. And if you back up traffic or you have water that comes across Gordon, it's going to come right down Kitty Cat, and it'll impact the people at the very end of the cul-de-sac. So I don't know how I turn that into a question.
No, I do hear you. And part of with the Pud Plan and the platting process, we work through all of that because he can't have a negative impact on his neighbor. It's against the rules and regulations. So we do work through all of that. Y'all will have another opportunity to see this again. And I did want to let you know, Mr. Thompson, if any of the folks on Kitty Cat, I know we're taping this. I don't know if I can share it, but if I can, I'd be glad to share it with those folks. Or they can reach out to Mr. Luciani as well. I thought I caught everybody.
Steve and Sherry Layton had called me a while ago.
Okay.
While I was waiting to get on, and they were having trouble joining the meeting. So I know they're interested.
Laura, this is Ty. I did tell David Spencer, who wasn't on your list, and I think he did tell some more people on PCAT. So that was my contact for that lane, but I did try to reach out to more people, just so you know, Mr. Thompson.
Great, thank you. I do see Sherry Layton on. Are you the Kitty Cat neighbor? Okay, good. So they did get on.
Okay, good.
And I do see David Spencer, who also has questions. Did you want to ask something? You put your hand down, Mr. Spencer.
No, I'd love to jump in. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Luciani, for letting us get a chance to look at your preliminary stuff. I know the zoning process is super convoluted, and it must be a joy to add steps to it. But I'm personally appreciative. I live back at 149 Kitty Cat Lane. I live at the far end of that cul-de-sac. And so I'm not within the 200 feet. Wanted to thank Ty. He came on. Also, Christine, thank you. And Kenneth. And And then it just gave me a reason to reach out to the neighbors because we've been 2 years now, we've been without our neighborhood watch party this last year for COVID. So I'm at the end, got a couple of questions.
Sure.
I know drainage is an issue. I'm not a drainage expert, but I believe most of the gravel that Mr. Thompson was referring to actually comes off the undeveloped old number 9 path. It comes down from all the way back behind Bum Doodlers, by the way. It doesn't appear to come off of that property to me, but I haven't really studied it. I know the gravel comes from like the first 50-foot section. And so I'm personally hopeful that the city accelerates their plans to finish out old number 9. I also personally love the pedestrian nature of old number 9 in particular, and would hope that that gets jealously guarded and included, Mr. Luciani, in your, the attraction to this particular piece of property has to be not just that it's an infill, but also that it's next to old number 9. And then last comment before I switch to questions, which is I love Garden Street and I love the trees in Garden Street. I love that you kind of have to slow down. Christine talks about people speeding. You can't speed too badly on that road because you're going to smash into a big oak tree. But Garden Street's one of my favorite parts of all of Boerne. And I'm glad that you've recognized that. And I would just ask that you continue to advocate that we retain the character of Garden Street, regardless of what gets done here. So those are my comments parts. Thanks. Let me switch to, you already answered a couple of my things. I know, and I don't know how much the city is, but we started a process as a city to talk about transportation in general. And then that got derailed with our hyperactivity around COVID. But I do understand that at least it was my understanding that one of the areas is fixing 5 points to be a roundabout. And I'm very curious about that, if that has any impact to your planning. And then second question is around pedestrian access to old number 9. I think one of the things I love about my house is I actually have a back gate. We don't use it very often because it's not paved, but I love that we're connected to old number 9 with pedestrian access. And I'm very interested if you have part of that as the allure of your project is pedestrian access. And I had one more pithy question that now I can't think of because I'm looking at all my notes. Oh, I know what it was. On lots 17, 18, and 19, is that where there's a current home there? And
Yes,
and would that be demolished as part of this?
yes,
Those are my 3 questions.
yes. We would certainly like to utilize the right of way, the city right of way there, and possibly contribute to the improvement of that. It's kind of rough right now.
I don't know if you've seen Mr. Luciani, but further down old number 9, and I can't recall the subdivision, but they've got a pedestrian access that's decomposed granite.
Yeah.
That is part of, but some feature like that would be super advantageous to your home prices, and I think would be super attractive if you'd be willing to consider it.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. And I think the decomposed granite surface is the way to go now, instead of concrete.
And it's just, there's an example, right? I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at, but not a quarter of a mile further towards, in this picture, it's to the upper right, which would be kind of the southeast.
Okay. I'll go take a look at that.
Yeah, there's a great example where they did an infill development over there with pedestrian access to old number 9 that's super attractive. And
okay, thanks. I'll certainly take a look at that. But to answer your question, I would love to incorporate that access to Maine and also just to the trails and everything that's out there. I think it will add to the development quite a bit, and hopefully we can add some improvements to it to make it finish it out, at least along the frontage that we have.
Okay, and
You said 5 points. I'm not sure I understood what you
so
were.
if you go down Adler Street to the, in this map, it would be downward, but it would be to the west. That ends,
Oh, okay,
that
okay.
ends in a very awkward intersection that
Where School Road and all
Ms.
that. comes
Jacobs,
in.
yeah, referred to.
Mhm.
And I think it's called 5 points because like 5 roads come together very awkwardly right there.
Yeah, we
Yes.
call it 5 points.
Yeah, most people that are coming from Main Street will not go left onto that and don't go down Adler. I think the Garden Ridge traffic, if there's any traffic on Garden, I will tell you how I drive home. If I'm coming from North Main, I almost never turn left at the light at Sisterdale because of 5 points by ends. I almost always go down to Frederick and turn left there because then I don't have to diddle fart with that intersection. And I'm hopeful that that gets corrected in the transportation plan. It was my understanding it was one of the low hanging fruit that the city had identified, or the transportation committee had identified as being very fixable for very low cost with a roundabout right there. And I don't know if that's still the case, but you answered the question. My main thing is, I'm not sure I agree with some of the previous comments. I really think that I guess the ideal thing is to leave it as a field forever. I just don't know how realistic that is, given the demand. I think that we could have some solutions that were particularly problematic, but I think if you look at the neighborhood to the north of Kitty Cat Lane, those are smaller homes that are well-maintained, great neighbors, great kids. I serve on the school board. I'm very interested in family, pedestrian, not drive in, drive out, gated communities. I really think that, this is going to get developed into something eventually. And I'm not certain that it's going to be Kitty Cat Lane single family homes because they'd be in the several $1 million range just to pay for the dirt. So,
Sure.
At any rate, I'm glad that you're thinking about traffic considerations, and I would encourage you to use your just your sphere of influence to restart the conversation in the community around transportation and that transportation committee. That is going to impact our quality of life a lot more than whatever development gets built right in this small piece.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's a good point. Have you got your lights up yet?
I have them at the office, which I have on Main Street, but
Well, we always go down Kitty Cat to see the lights because it's always.
well, he's gone now. That was my neighbor, and
Oh.
he's no longer there. The last thought on Kitty Cat, about halfway up Kitty Cat Lane, the elevation changes, and the first front half of Kitty Cat, closer to Garden, actually drains towards Garden. The
Mhm.
back half drains down into a drainage feature that I have in my yard, and it's actually on the plot. There's a retention pond that is in my backyard that catches that. So I'm super interested in drainage, but that part I have studied, and the whole front half of Kitty Cat Lane actually drains towards Garden,
Right.
not the other way. And so my sense is that if you can just get the city to finally extend old number 9, and then whatever development comes in here does a good job for planning on retention and directing that water all wants to flow south and east down old number 9, because its elevation's dropping as you go south and east.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think Mr. Thompson's right. You have to be super careful that the intersection right there where old number 9 crosses Garden on one side and Frederick on the other. Boy, it'd be great if there were a solution there that we could develop confidence in, so it didn't get inundated with gravel like it does right now because of the unfinished nature of old number 9.
Well, I think we'll be looking at the overall drainage around the area. So I think, we're going to recognize the problems and try to solve them as best we can as a 7-acre development.
And then I think for the neighbors, I mean, I know that road, you could swap the road and lots 1 through 7. And that puts it up against ends, and then, same issue that Ms. Jacobs has. But I think if you just look at the neighborhood that's just to the west, to the east, those homes that you already mentioned, and that having them back up, and this is kind of what appears to be a nicer version of that, I think hopefully would be well received. It certainly could be better than some of the alternatives. I'll tell you, when Miss Jacobs got me up in arms and running around was when he was talking about putting apartments in here, which I thought was going to be particularly bad from traffic and pedestrian perspective.
Well,
Mr.
it's
Spencer, Are you
Sorry.
talking about the property kind of close to Blanco Road over off of Becker? Is that the trail you're talking
I've
about?
forgotten the name of the neighborhood that is, if you go east on Adler
Mhm.
and you pass Garden, but don't turn in, and then you turn right there. I think we're Serenity Oaks on Kitty Cat Lane, and it's named Serenity Garden, I think.
Okay.
But those homes right there are more along this style, and they back up to the Kitty Cat property, on the north side of Kitty Cat Lane. And so those people, I'd be very curious to see what their experience has been with having neighbors behind them versus a field, and how that's gone for them.
Great. So we've got a couple of other people that have some questions or have their hands raised.
Hi, Laura. This is Dan Lang. Can I go next?
Sure. I didn't see your hand up, but go ahead.
Okay.
And we got two more people, and then we're coming up on 6:30, so we need to probably wrap it up here pretty quick.
Yes, I have a couple of quick questions when you're done, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I also have some questions. I have a
Yes,
house
ma'am.
on Garden Street and on Serenity, so I'd really like to have some time if we can extend this.
I believe we can extend it until, I think I had the time as 7, but I don't want to go too much longer than 6:30. I just don't want to cut.
Great, thank you.
Told everybody 5:30 to 6:30. So, but go ahead, Stan, and then we'll.
Yeah, Stan and Linda Lang. And actually, Mr. Spencer had mentioned something. We live on Serenity Drive, and our property backs up here on Garden Street. And Dave, thank you for your efforts to try to find a win-win for everyone. So I really appreciate it. And a lot of the comments that Mr. Spencer made, I certainly agree with as well. But I do have a few questions along Garden Street, which that is a very unique street, like Mr. Spencer had mentioned. And obviously we want to mitigate any changes as much as we can there. But when you look at lots 20 through 25, and this is for, my neighbors that would back up, our property to there, and obviously floor plans, most of them are 2 stories. Obviously our concern is going to be the privacy taken away with a 2-story home, possibly the visual from the 2nd floor into our backyards possibly. And so I don't know if there's any way to look at that to mitigate that as far as privacy is concerned. That's one question. I've got a few more.
Well, I mean, we can only go so high on a wall to separate, and we've got a good separation. Like I said, I do not want to touch anything in Garden Street.
But I guess
I feel the same way about Garden Street that Mr. Spencer does, and I don't live there. It's just a neat little street, and it's got those big oaks in the middle. So I think that provides somewhat of a buffer.
Yeah, but obviously from a design standpoint, those and the view from a 2nd floor into our backyards is certainly a concern. Again, I don't know if there's a win-win on something like that you could look at, and design.
Yeah. Well, and the house is not going to be all the way to that back building line. it'll be a little forward of that. So, and the carport, of course, or the garage will be just one story. So hopefully that angle won't be too bad. And we can think of some other things. I mean, I wish trees grew faster, but
I was gonna say landscaping might be a good
yeah,
scenario.
landscaping is, but not for the height part.
Right. My next question along Garden Street, your entrance that you have, entrance and exit, just based on my calculations, I could be wrong, but it looks like that entrance and exit will go into a part of an island. And so I don't know if you guys have looked at that or not, and that's going to create an issue, especially if we're going to be committed to not doing anything to those islands. And so that's going to be an issue there. And I don't know if y'all have looked at moving, and I know there'll be other concerns, but moving that entrance and exit down towards that the open detention area, possibly, if you looked at that, because I see that being a real issue off Garden Street where the entrance and exit's at right now.
Well, I wasn't planning to make any kind of cut in that esplanade at all. People will just have to come garden this way. And if they come this way, they're going to have to go down to Adler and come around.
Yeah, like I said, that there's probably needs to be some more thought into that because of that island there. And again, I think everybody's pretty on the same page as far as what Garden Street should maintain the integrity of the look.
Sure.
I'll need to look at that, and again, planning and moving maybe that entrance and exit down to the other end. I know that might be a possibility.
Well, we can take a look at that. It might be able to work.
Okay. The other, the property line on the sidewalk area on Garden, will it go all the way up to the sidewalk, or will it be back a little? Because again, there are some trees along that sidewalk area too that we would certainly would want to be able to keep.
Yeah, I'd want to keep those perimeter trees that are along the fence line, even if they're 5 feet inside the property line. I'd want to keep that perimeter tree line along Garden.
Okay. I know you've already addressed the fence on Garden Street. It sounds like you're committed to obviously a very nice fence. If we go down that road with a rock fence or possibly an 8-foot fence, for sure it sounds like. So certainly we would appreciate whatever it takes to make that as nice as possible along Garden Street. And then Dave, the last question I have, and I think you've already answered, if not approved for R2, do you even have an R1 plan, or is it something that y'all are just going to probably walk away from it?
No, I'd probably just walk away. I mean, R1, the layout is really difficult, and it just the money part of it. Lots in there would be starting at probably, I don't know, 250,000 or something, and it just that's not what I do. I don't do luxury homes. We try to do high quality homes from like 2,500 down to 1,000 square feet, but they are all quality. And I invite people to come out, give us a call, and we'll show you the kind of quality we build in our cottages. We've got another development starting up called Sienna that's right behind it. And it's all granite, all hardwoods, metal roofs. I mean, we don't go build a grade on anything. So they're very quality homes, and anyone that wants to see what we build, you're welcome to give us a call. We'll take you through them.
Well, we'd certainly be open to lot 20 through 25 to make those like the cottages single story there. So.
Well, we do have a couple of lower elevations that we might look at and do a little specific planning on those.
Yeah, it's just a win-win. We'd sure appreciate that, Dave. So
Yeah,
thank you. And that's all the questions I have. So Laura, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Miss Jerry Hendricks, did I pronounce
Yes.
that correctly?
Yeah, I'm Jerry Henricks. I own the house at 144 Garden. That's the only other house on Garden Street. And then I live across the street at 118 Serenity. 144 Garden, my mother lives there. Just a couple questions. I think I read somewhere that that there will or will not be a homeowners association in this group of homes?
There will be. What did you hear?
I don't recall. That's some of this I've read a time or two. And so some of my questions are clarifications. Another question for clarification, what size range are you talking about in these homes? Because I didn't realize there were going to be 2-story homes or larger homes. So can you just let me know what the size range is going to be?
Yes, we have 1,213 to 2,418.
Okay. On the inside of the street inside that runs through the area, will there be sidewalks inside that area?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And you mentioned that the option is for a carport or a garage. Does every lot have room to have one or the other of those things? Is there going to be any house in here that will not have a garage or a carport?
No.
Okay. I think like what a lot of folks have said, my large concerns are, one, drainage, because my house is right next to where this is going to be built. And 2, the traffic. I've owned that house for on Garden almost 20 years. And as this end of town has become more developed, I would disagree with Mr. Spencer a little bit. People drive through Garden Street like bats out of hell. And I'm really concerned as we've put sidewalks on Garden Street, and people walk down to the old number 9 trail from our end of town, you got a lot of pedestrian traffic on Garden. And so I'm interested if we're thinking about however many more cars this adds to the traffic load at this end of the town. Are we thinking about putting a light at Adler and Garden? Are we thinking about putting speed bumps in? Are there other things we can do to mitigate traffic on this particular area, particularly around the old number 9 trail? And my last question is, actually, I think that was my last question. Concerns largely around drainage and traffic like everyone else.
Great. Thank you very much.
I do have one last question. Laura, could you restate, you mentioned that there's going to be a hearing in January. Would you restate the other meetings?
You bet. Well, the public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission will be Monday night at 6 o'clock. So that's December the 7th. And then before a council, we'll have a public hearing on January 26th.
Okay.
That'll be a public hearing and first reading, and then they have a second reading after that, but there's no public hearing involved.
Okay. So I actually did find my other question. Do we know how long this property has been for sale?
Oh gosh, I've been here 16 years now, and it's probably been a good 10 years that it's
I bought
been
the
for
Garden
sale.
Street house in 2003, and it was not for sale then.
Right.
The
So-
current owner bought the property in 2014. The
So
flat
probably
houses owned that property before 2014, but the current owner, Jeff Brooks, purchased that property in 2014.
and has been trying to sell it, presumably the biggest part of that time, because I know it's been for sale for at least 4 years.
I have talked to multiple people on it, so yes.
Yeah. And so then my last question, Dave, do you live in the Boerne city limits?
Yes, ma'am. Have for 11 years. I live off of Schweppe, Hammonite.
Okay. Great, thanks. And appreciate your time, Dave. Lots of questions and good information.
Well, thank you very much for attending.
It's 6:39 now. I've got Miss Perez had her hand up. Did you want to say anything?
Yes, just really quick questions, and a couple of them are already answered. Thank you for, again, reiterating what everybody said, for taking the time to meet with us, show your proposal. Yes, I've heard apartment buildings have, that was something that's been proposed before, and thankfully that hasn't happened. But I live on Brookside Lane 11H, so I'm actually 2 streets over from Garden. So I do drive to Garden to cut to Main, drop my kids off, etc. So you answered the question about the islands with the oaks as far as not doing anything there because, again, they're beautiful there. Are we going to be sacrificing the sidewalk on Garden? I guess when you showed the easement, it didn't have that cut out, so I just wanted to confirm that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of.
No, we're keeping everything out there the same.
Uh-huh. And then someone mentioned something about, real quick, a roundabout, because I know what Ms. Hendricks just said about a light at Adler and Garden, but I always get backed up at Frederick or Garden in Maine. So is that where the roundabout was being considered, or because I would think that would be more of
Yes.
a prime area for a light if possible, if not a roundabout.
Right, there has been some discussion and some consideration of a roundabout right there where School Street and Adler and Maine all come together at that location, which I think would
Oh, no,
greatly
Ms.
help
Harris
the
is
traffic.
asking about Frederick and Maine. That's not where it's been talked about. She
Not
mentioned
Frederick and Maine, no.
Frederick and Maine. No, it
Yes,
was
we're
by Adler, where Adler dead ends by ends and dead ends in
oh, goes
And
into
then you
School
have the
Street.
light there.
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm talking about Adler or Frederick, because Garden turns into Frederick and Frederick hitting Maine, because I mean, the traffic through there, you know, in the mornings and then the evenings backs up. So I can just imagine the cars backing up, you know, down with the added traffic, right? So just wondering if that would be something to be considered for future, adding a light there to accommodate this additional housing.
This
Or
housing
studies.
project would not trigger a light there, I'm sure. But I think if
Okay.
we were able to do that roundabout, I think the flow of traffic in general in the area, people would
Okay.
quit cutting down Garden because it'll be so much easier to get through the roundabout. So that's the
Okay.
goal overall.
Got it. Got it. Okay. No, that was my list of questions.
So am I missing anybody that I just can't see their hands up? I see somebody's.
I have my hand up, Sherry Layton.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, Dave, thank you very much for doing this for us. And I live on Kitty Cat Lane, actually next door to the Thompsons. And I was horrified at the idea a few years ago of apartments being on this spot. And so I really appreciate this as an alternative. It does feel very dense to me, but it's not nearly as dense as apartments. So I appreciate that. Are you doing the cottage community on Oak Park? Is that your development?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I may ask some questions you've already addressed. I was a little late getting on. And how, and just, I have tried to conceptualize this number of houses on this size property. And what I've looked at is on right there on Serenity Drive, which is just the development that they're talking about that backs up to Garden Street. How is, because those houses are not as small as some of these, but they're also not as large as the large ones that you've mentioned for this development. So how does the density of that street compare to what you're proposing?
Well, I think the look, and when I started the presentation, I pointed out that this really, if you look at the layout that we have up there now, it really doesn't have a hallway type of houses on each side type of layout. It's got like houses on one side and then the side of a house on one side. So it's not going to look the same as Serenity. Is it Serenity Gardens? Is that what it is? I think. So density wise, it's going to look less dense than that because it doesn't have that side to side house fronting on each side on these roadways.
So there's 23 homes on about 4.5 acres in Serenity Oaks. I think that's what it's called. Oops. Just to give you an idea of the difference between the two.
And we won't have, pardon me, but we won't have the front, you know, the first thing you see, I think on some of these homes is and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the way you have to build, but you won't see the garage when you're driving down the road. You'll see the porches of the houses. So the first thing you see won't be a garage out and a driveway. it'll be the actual house.
If there's a rock wall on Garden, how will people access those backside garages and carports?
Through the front road. They're all
You have
fronting on
those-
the street.
Yeah, that
They're all
elevation.
fronting
that-
on,
You
they're
might
all
want to
fronting
reshow
on
the
our
elevation,
street.
'cause I think that
Let's get to that plot
that was
plan.
early, yeah.
Hold on one second.
Typical lot plan.
With the driveway.
Shoot. hold on. While you're pulling that up, could I just ask a question real quickly about the wildlife that's over there right now, the deer and other rodents and possums and raccoons and stuff? What happens to all those?
They'll probably move farther north. I don't know. I guess that's a good question. I'm not sure what happens to wildlife.
They do, they get relocated, so you're correct. I mean, they find a greener pasture, so to speak. They're gonna move
Well,
on to wherever.
we
there's
have a
more-
rodent problem since 2014. We never had it
It'll
before that.
probably cure that. I mean, that's the good side of it, right?
Well,
But
in the
deer-
interim, I might have to deal with it. We've spent thousands of dollars on
Oh,
flood
gotcha.
insurance and thousands of dollars on rodent control, so.
There's a lot of open space still on the south side of the old number 9. They can, there's a lot of deer that live down there. I love the idea of working with the city to extend the walking trail up through behind, this subdivision. But because when it rains, the water definitely comes down through the old number 9. So, and then someone mentioned, and I'm sorry to disagree with Stan, but I really appreciate where you have the entrance off of Garden Street and that it's not right there butt up against Kitty Cat Lane. And if I would appreciate you keeping it where it is and let people deal with the median. As a developer, you can't do anything to those trees because you don't own those trees. The city owns those trees on Garden Street. So I don't see those trees being in danger unless the city decides to do something with them. So
yeah, it won't be me. I don't want to cut that median. I don't want to do that. But
I kind of like your idea about you kind of force Garden Street to be a one-way coming into the addition, and I think that's actually probably helpful.
Yeah, I looked at it at the beginning. I was thinking, we might have to find a way to cut, but then I just decided, no, it's better. People will get used to the way in and the way out pretty fast. So it's not like, you don't have to take them to school on it. Sherry, can you see the layout that we have up on the screen?
It's just the subdivision.
I still see the plat.
Oh, so we just need to share that, new share.
I think so.
And it should come up to show you. Your question was, how do you access?
There it is. We got it.
This is a typical lot. Of course,
Okay.
You've got your subdivision street, your sidewalk in the subdivision, and then the driveways come up from there. And then the rear of the lot, for instance, up there where it says scale, that would end up being Garden Street.
Okay.
On a typical layout.
And will all the houses be 2-story or some 1, some 2?
No, we have some. The smaller ones are just single. So the majority are 2-story.
Okay.
And a porch up and down, which is kind of unique.
I do see one more person that's raised their hand.
Jody Jones.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Slayton, are you?
Okay, you're welcome, Sherry. Thank you.
Ms. Jones, if you'd like to ask a couple of questions, and then I think we're going to have to close it up, folks.
Yeah, no, that's no problem at all. This is Jody Jones. I'm actually over in Brookside, in Meadowbrook Estates. And, my question, everything we keep talking about drainage and where it's coming off of old number 9 and onto Garden Street. I'm just trying to figure out kind of if it's going to affect through Serenity and into Meadowbrooks, because I actually live along the drainage ditch that runs from Serenity on into my property at 117 Brookside and into a retaining pond and then back on through the field to the creek that runs behind. The reason I bring it up is, you know, you made a mention about the floodplain. Well, the houses on the backside of Meadowbrooks are actually in the floodplain. So the majority of those houses do have to have flood insurance based on their location. And as one of the other neighbors here had said, I've got pictures that show how much water actually comes back up into that field and around. You have a lot of problems with reverse flooding, where that basically is that creek gets so swelled that everything that's coming off of these two streets has nowhere else to go but break over the actual drainage ditch and then run out into that field. So with the addition of this added, you know, water coming down, is this going to be pushed on into those two neighborhoods and through those drainage ditches as well?
No, I don't think so. You know, my attitude towards development has changed quite a bit over the years. And it seems like to me with all of our drainage rules and regulations that we've come up with in a pretty positive way here in Boerne, I think we're going to be slowing that water down. I think you're going to have less water. The time of concentration is going to be extended, and it's not going to get to its final point as quick as it does now. We're going to be slowing that water down with the development and with the retention facilities that we're having. So, I mean, I think that's what the city actually intends with their new ordinance, is to control water a lot better and to also treat it with the low impact development rules and regulations that were just adopted a couple of months ago. We have to filtrate and treat that water as it comes out. And that also slows it down a great deal more than it would just with a pipe at the top and pipe at the bottom. So to answer your question, I think it's going to help the situation quite a bit.
You mentioned retention. Is that going to be in those green spaces that you've got shown up there? I never saw anything that showed any kind of retention area.
Yeah, it says detention / open.
Okay.
On the plan, there's 2 large detention facilities on the site.
Closer to old number 9 is where it was located.
Okay.
Just a last comment on that drainage. My husband and I have an 8-foot opening in the back of our fence that's 8 feet by about 3 feet tall. So when the water comes down our driveway, through our yard and into that field, it goes through at least 12 inches deep. And we have taken on water in our guest room garage, guest house, and it has come with a 1/4 inch of coming into our house. We have to have flood insurance, and we are not in the 100-year flood zone.
Yeah.
There is a major drainage issue.
Well, that's coming.
We take on 18 inches of rain up to my knees.
Christine, does that water go directly across to where the old number 9 cut is, or does that go out into the field?
It comes
across Adler.
Comes across Adler, comes down Adler, and our driveway is the easement for the drainage on Adler Road. We've already fought with the city and county to get that culvert put in, but they don't maintain it, and they don't have the proper drainage where it goes down that way. It continues to come across and get into the 2 lots that you're thinking of purchasing where those houses are, and our lot. I've got plenty of pictures. And then, like I said, we get 12, 18 inches running through our backyard when it's a heavy rain. It is a problem. And if you put up a retention wall, that means I have to retain that water, or we do on our property. There is a bigger issue.
Well, I wouldn't build a wall that would retain water.
Right. And so, Ms. Jacobs, you're correct. I would be concerned about that as well, but they are, per the regulations, they're not allowed to back up water onto anybody's property. They're supposed to keep it on their site and release it from their site at the same rate. So that should not be an issue. But we've got to wrap up the meeting now. It's almost 7 o'clock.
Appreciate it.
And I invite you,
Thank
though,
you,
to
Laura.
speak, to reach out to Mr. Luciani. I'm sure that he'd be glad to take a look and see where the water comes across your site. He's got to study this whole area. His engineers have got to study it too. So hopefully it'll be helpful.
Mr.
would
Luciani,
welcome
can you
that.
provide your contact information?
I
Yes.
can email, if anybody wants to email it to me, I'd be glad to send it to them. It did go out. If anybody got the flyers that we sent out with the notifications for the public hearing, it's on there as well.
Thank you. I see it now.
Let me say real quick that, there might have been some criticism here tonight, but I really appreciate input to help us develop a better property. I mean, it really helps me to know some of these issues, even though they're, difficult sometimes. But if we can all work together and incorporate these things, I think we can improve everybody's lives and their properties. And I just want to say that I appreciate all the input, and there were some good ideas and some things I'm going to think about and go look at. And we will probably see you at the public hearing on the 7th.
Also, thanks and a shout out to Councilman Willison. God love you, brother, and thank you for getting the word out on this.
Thank you all for participating.
Okay, thank you. And
Thanks
good
for
night.
the info.
Everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Laura.
Okay, good night.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.